Welcome back to Hair Impact. I'm Gosanda Hinleos, and in this episode, we are talking about biodiversity loss. Now, if you don't know the word, which probably you do, biodiversity is the diversity in biota, so it's plants and animals. And thankfully, in this planet, we have a lot of diversity of the species. So this episode is inspired by an article that was just published a few weeks ago about the fact that 1 million species are at risk of extinction. So the problem is with biodiversity loss is it doesn't affect only the plants and animals. At the end of the day, it affects us, humans. And there are 5 different ways that affects us that are important for us to know in order to take action. So the first reason is that actually biodiversity is a really important indicator of climate change. So if we're seeing loss in biodiversity, it actually means that climate change impacts are severe. And finally, it will affect us. Species like birds and butterflies are the best indicator on climate change, and it shows scientists the changes in temperature and climate actually. So it shows the changes in how these species are migrate. Because of the temperature becomes higher, so these species are leaving some areas and they go towards the north, which is cooler. At least in the Mediterranean region, are going towards north, which is much cooler. So it shows us actually what we should do, what action we should do about climate change, and how it changed, and how it can impact us also at the end, except these species. Another important reason why we have to take care and take action about that biodiversity loss is actually because biodiversity is our food. It's our food chain. So we are really 100% dependable on biodiversity. And any loss, it will mean food security. It will be a danger for our food security. So we will see decline food and quantities, and at the end of qualities also. Another area we are affected by the biodiversity loss is medicines. A lot of medicine actually are created from plants. So any loss will affect also some medicines that will not be available to us. And that will cause problem, of course, in the health system. Another part of our life that is going to affect it with biodiversity loss is manufacture. So some materials that we use to create a number of products in manufacture sector, like wood. That's a good example. We need it in timber and paper, so that would be a problem. Or fibers or dyes. So any loss on biodiversity, all these quantities or availability of these materials will be at risk for us, will not be available. And finally, another part of our lives that are affected is actually tourism. The last decades, we are going towards ecotourism. So we are visiting countries to see the biodiversity of their countries, their plants and animals. And any loss, it will means that it will affect also the economies of these countries that are so much depending on tourists, ecotourism especially. One country that is so depending on that is Australia actually. The reefs of Australia are so important about their tourists. Is their number one? If you see how Australia shows their tourism, the brand, how they're attracting tourists, it's actually their reefs. And that's iconic because tourism actually is one of the cause that biodiversity is lost. You know, a lot of people going there, a lot of visitors, and affects the nature and the reefs. If in the case of Australia, or the plants are destroyed, or animals, some illegal hunting. So at the end of the day, the product of these countries is affected. The biodiversity is affected and is lost. So biodiversity for us is important. We cannot live, we cannot breathe, we cannot eat, we cannot drink because of if we lose biodiversity. We just need it 100% for our survival. So it's important for us to take action against it. It's important for us to save species because they are in danger. A percentage of that is because of us. Of course, there are also natural causes, but humans are always a big threat. Now and in the past, it was a great threat for species that are no longer available. They already exist. So thank you for this episode that you were with me. I hope I'll see you next Wednesday for another episode here Impact. Remember, biodiversity matters for us, so take action against it and make knowledge your superpower. Don't forget that. And I'll see you next Wednesday with another episode of Hair Impact.